Hello, I'm Evan Chapman. Garden City has a rich and colorful history. The area we know as Garden City was founded as a village in 1927 and incorporated as a city in 1933. Since 2004, much of this story has been told at the Garden City Historical Museum located inside of the Straight Farmhouse on Merriman Road. The contents of the museum are on loan from the city and managed by the Friends of the Straight Farmhouse. Along with the museum, the Straight Farmhouse is also home to the Grand Parlor and a gift shop filled with great items celebrating history. Today on the program, we will explore Garden City's Historical Museum with Jack Kerstetter and Bill Brooks. They will lead us on a guided tour and show us a window into Garden City's fascinating past.
And I'd like to introduce you to our first village president, Arnold Foker, in 1927. He also was our first mayor in 1933. He was part of the Foker Real Estate Company. In fact, he was the head man. Here is our Boy Scouts, Cub Scouts, Brownies, and Girl Scout display from various troops here in town at one time or another. This uniform up here was worn by that young fellow in 1942. Wayne has passed away. He passed away about at 86, a few years ago.
You also have one of the Girl Scouts with her uniform over here, right?
Yes. Now, this is Marie Presnell's uniform. In the first Girl Scout troop here in town, she visited us a few years ago, and I took a picture of her in her uniform. And that's one of her summer camp pictures. And I gave her the picture, and she named everybody. These are composite school pictures for, number one, Garden City High School, Garden City East, and again, Garden City High School. The first complete 12th grade was in 1952 in Garden City. Prior to that, we only went to the 10th grade. Students went to Dearborn, Wayne, or Plymouth to finish high school. And then we have a book of West High. West High opened in 1965, graduated their first class in 66, and their last class in 82. 83, they combined all high schools back to the original Garden City High School on Middle Belt and Maplewood. This is Research Room A and B, second floor. There is a research room in the first floor. We have a lot of research here. These books here in green are from the city. Anything pertaining to city government, police, fire, what have you. We also have some old ledgers up on the top, which we haven't looked at quite some time, and that's back from the 30s and the 40s. And we also have a typewriter display, an adding machine display. Over here we have books in Research B for the residents of Garden City, up here on the top in red or pink. And then we go to yellow, and that is all schools.
Now, who compiled a lot of this stuff?
Well, I spent 5 years taking it out of the filing cabinets and putting it into these notebooks. We also have a listing down here of Garden City churches on the bottom in white. Now, if you took an example, 1933 to 43, each class or groups of classes had a composite school picture taken at their various schools. School 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Dillon, Douglas. There's over 7,800 faces here. And in a 10-year period, we were able to name 86.6 of them. Each picture has its own, and on the top it has the name sheets. So we are short a few, but some of those people aren't around anymore. A lot of them. And we are computerizing all this so that eventually we'll be able to type a name into the computer and it'll say it's in book number 23, schools, whatever the case may be, resident, city. Now you're looking at the high school yearbooks there. We have all the high school yearbooks with the exception of two, 1970 and 2011, and that is from both high schools. Above here is the elementary and junior highs books that we have. And quite recently we had a couple of fellows come in who were interested in books from the 60s and 70s. We have a surplus which we do sell. And they were able to find 3 books downstairs from their time in school. Wow. And the funny thing was, come to find out, they lived across the street from my folks. This is research room number 2 on the 2nd floor. The blue books here are from service organizations in Garden City. The American Legion, the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts, the Ladies Association, which started here in 1925 and ran up for the next 75 years. The daughters took it over until they passed on. And it also runs over to here. Up here we have news clippings. This be 2013 from January to June. It's full of news clippings from the Observer. Down below we have the complete Observer or Guardian and Observer papers. Oops.
Wow.
Now these run up to about 72, and then we didn't get them anymore. We do have a set of papers downstairs from the Garden City Herald from 1931 to 35, and I had them reprinted because the original papers are getting in bad shape.
We'll have to get a look at that when we get down there.
So they're nice. I got to find a book to put them in. Service organizations, the Kiwanis, the JCs, what have you. This is some of the stuff from the city. This Monopoly set is something that we had made when we first moved here in 2004 and sold that as a fundraiser. And it has all different businesses from Garden City, rather than Park Place and the normal things.
Right, boardwalk.
The key there is from the one that used to be given to Santa Claus every Christmas parade, or Thanksgiving Day parade, I should say. This gavel is from the JCs. The chair of the JCs would use that. It looks like he used it a little hard a couple of times. I'm sure that's from the Lions. Down there in the corner is Dr. Vogel, Sam Petrick, and Harold Donner. Harold Donner. Sam was a barber here. He was our first volunteer fireman. Dr. Vogel came here in 33, 34. I know he was here in 34 because he delivered me at home. He had an office in Detroit, and 10, 15 years ago, the sign was still on a building on Michigan Avenue. Wow. I couldn't believe that. Anyhow, here's our toy room. We have toys from about every era. And you want to watch and make sure you get E.T. down here, because E.T.'s hiding. This is all donations from people in Garden City. We do have the hula hoop if anybody wants to try her.
I'm a little old for that.
There's E.T. on the hobby horse. I don't know why I'm fascinated with him, but I am. Or her, whatever that thing was.
It, I guess.
The BB guns here were bought by Elwyn Strait in 1937. They are Daisy air rifles from Plymouth when they were manufactured there, and they cost $2.75 a piece, he said. The saw here came from the Santu Funeral Home property, Marquette and Inkster. In the late 1800s, that was a lumbering camp, and this saw was used there for rough cutting the logs and boards. Would have had a steam-driven outfit, something similar to that, not that particular one, for power. This tree here was in the center of Central Street for many, many years on the north side. We went around it, and when they finally paved the street, they took the tree out. It was over 200 years old. Now you're in the homeroom. We have 3 writing dresses, 1, 2, and 3. We have a green sewing machine, no electric power, all foot power. Over here we have some kids' toys, clothes, what have you, pant stretchers, the DeWong quintuplets from Canada in '34. The dress there was from the West Side Singers from West High School. That was our daughters. My wife made that dress.
What year was this?
That would have been '76. She graduated in '77. Now we have the spinning wheel that isn't too functional anymore, but it could be. Just got to get a few fabrics to put into it. Over here we have an automatic clothes dryer, which is still quite functional, with the iron of the day, which you heated on your wood-burning stove. In 1927, Garden City got electricity, so we were able to go to electric irons, and this thing in the middle of the ironing board is a iron for men's neckties. These are functional sewing machines, and they're all green, hand power. Of course, we have the scrub board in the wash tub for cleaning the clothes. Over here we have an ice cream maker. Above it, a Eureka vacuum cleaner, quite modern for its time. Over here is a rug beater, because before the vacuum was invented or made, you had to take your rugs outside and hang them on a line and beat them, get the dirt out of them, and a butter churn. The dishes are from various families here in town. I can't tell you who's who at the moment.
All donated by Garden City West.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
The entertainment of the day, in my day, was the radio, which we have downstairs. You'd like to see that one. Oh, yeah. Or the 33 and 78 records. And the heroes of the day. I honestly don't know who he is. However, he is delivering ice to Sam Petrick, the barber, who sold ice also. And this is the post office, which was a side of the Square Deal on Middlebelt, right about where Kitty's restaurant is today. This map or photo of Garden City was made by Tom Keeling in 1970. This is Ford Road, Middlebelt. Merriman, you are here. Warren goes up. Inkster's out in the middle of the doorway. And this goes down to about Marquette. Doesn't cover the whole city, but gets 85% of it, I would think. Gets a good percentage. This is Ford Middlebelt, 1950. Right here is Ellsworth Ford dealership, who started here in 39. That's the A&P at that point in time. And the other buildings were built later. The Silver Bar and Bowling Alley, #1 school, the Fokker Building, the Garden City Hotel, the Garden City Schaefer Theater, later to be the La Parisienne. This is the first Kroger, and this is the second in town. They kind of increased the size.
Yeah, I was going to say.
This is the outdoor ice rink in the park at Cherry Hill in Merriman. And this is the ice arena, which is about here today. This is our building that was in the park, the old log cabin. It was a gas station at Ford in Outer Drive, built in 1927 until 1950. They widened Ford Road, the building had to go, and it was given to Garden City. And they put it in the park, and it became our museum.
Right.
Okay, in here we have our schoolroom. This is the switchboard, which was put into Garden City High School in 1950 and operated up until the early 80s. If you look close, you'll see some names that you may be familiar with. A lot of the girls used to, rather than taking a study hall, would work in the office for an hour and operate the switchboard. This is the first computer the high school bought, 1980. 81, sorry, 81. It's from Radio Shack. And your wristwatch probably does more today. All the memorabilia is from the 3 high schools. Garden City, East, West, Garden City High School. Down here we have the plaque off of Marquette School, built in 1948, opened about 49. And behind that was the old #3 school where I started school, wooden three-room school. These are cutouts that were found in the attic in #1 school when they tore it down in the early 80s, probably from the 30s and the early 40s. This is the marching band in 1971. Someone identified the drum major for me. That's why I know the year. I'd get a book out, then I could figure out who he is. Now, this is #5 school. Originally built in 1850, 1906 it burned. They built this one section here, not that. And then in 36 they put an addition on the school and made it a 2-room school. They only went from grades 1 to 8. This is the lady teacher riding her horse to the #5 school back in the day. The picture above is a junior high picture of 1973. To its left is the 10th grade in 1943 at #1 school. Down below here in the center, the first graduating class of 52 went to Washington, D.C. This is the old #1 school as it originally was built in 1927, first brick and mortar school in Garden City. And then in 37 they added the addition in the back. They tore that down for McLean Hunter. Yep, they said it was a fire trap. I don't know how the hell we got through it, but we did. This is our business room. The display here is some Hershey shoes. Hershey's came here in 1946, moved in the side of the theater. in the Garden City Hotel. That's a lie. This is their original cash register, and if you'll notice here it says gas and cash. They bought a used register. That's their original adding machine, which is still functional, except we ran out of ink. The ribbons got kaput. This is Boland's florist sign when it was at Ford and Dillon. And many years later they moved to their current location. And then the original Kmart, the first one in the world, built here in Garden City in 1962. Had Packers Food for about 5 years, and then they closed that up and expanded the store. Now here's a sign from the Garden City State Bank, which opened up in the Fokker building in the late 20s. It was closed by President Roosevelt in '33. However, I understand that no one lost money from that, which was fantastic. This is a cream separator. You pour the raw milk in here. You crank the handle. The heavy cream comes out of one spout. The other comes out of the other. You put it into the butter churn, the heavy cream that is, and you crank it and make butter. Now, if you look at these bottles here, this bottle says Garden City Dairy. The Shatterow family found that bottle in Traverse City in a flea market. They bought it and brought it back and gave it to us. In the 30s and 40s at Hartel on Ford Road was the Garden City Dairy. This is Dr. Schmidt's toolbox, the dentist. Dr. Schmidt came here in 1946. That's all you can get, Gay. That was his office. And these are his tools. And as offered before, we'd be happy to crank the drill up if you like a drill. Yeah. Now this is Dr. Schulberg's bag. And here is Dr. Schulberg. Okay. In his office, which has been modernized many times. Now it's a two-story building. There is the original Garden City Hospital on Ford Road between Henry Ruff and Shaka, about where the car wash is on the north side today. Originally it was an orphanage built in the late 30s. About 1942, 43, a group of doctors rented the second floor and made it a maternity ward. This display here is from Oren Mazzoni Sr.'s workbench. His lathes for making parts for watches and clocks. His green jewelry cleaner. Buffer and grinder down below. The street light is from the 20s. Actually, that's from Inkster. I don't know how we got it, but we did. Now, this picture here is 1928. McFarland Realty was selling off the Lather farm at Gilman and Beechwood. They had them people out here on a Sunday, and they gave this Model A away, which is the first year of the Model A. So that was a big deal. Okay. John Santu in the 60s and in the 2000s. He aged a bit with his son. This is just a suitcase with traveling things. The shower curtain is below it and is really interesting. It's cars from the 50s. I love looking at that. You see the Hudsons, the old Henry J, a couple of Fords there. There's the Henry J. This is the 1926 motorhome, built by a real estate dealer here in town, and him and his wife used to go back and forth to Florida in the winter. It had to be quite a trip. That's Ford Metal Belt, 1942. This is the silver bar. And the reason we can say that it's 42 is it's a 42 Oldsmobile here, which a person identified as their father's. And later, after the Second War, is when the bowling alley was put in. This is a gasoline engine for a Maytag washer. Remember, we didn't have electricity until 1927, so this would be used on your porch or in your shed outside so you don't kill yourself. If you really want to get a thrill, you grab a hold of the spark plug.
Oh, yeah.
And light your eyes up. Now here we have a beaver skin hat. Behind it, a carrying case. A candlestick telephone. A street sign. All hand carved. This would be the 40s. This is 1850.
Wow.
40s and 50s, we still had the wooden signs. I think they got rid of them up in the 60s, but I'm not really sure anymore. I don't remember. This is a military, police, and fire room. Here you have weapons from the Civil War to the present day. You have the old bullet mold here for the muzzle loaders for making the ball. A couple of bayonets from the Civil War, First World War, Second World War. This is a 50 caliber machine gun bullet. It was quite popular at the end of the Second War for guys to convert those into lighters for lighting their cigarettes. There were kits made for it. Now you'll see a Japanese pistol, a German dagger. The boots on the floor were issued to Milton Miller, who was a police officer here. And at that point in time, the fire department was also, the police department was also the fireman. And we had our volunteer fire of the group. But every police officer had to have an outfit. Here's some V-mails from World War II. They used to shrink them down and ship them home. They're hard to read. Over here we have, I'm going to get around you, Dan. You don't want my picture. Up on the top is some badges collected by Bertram Higgins, who was a police officer here from about 46 for the next 20, 25 years. And they went up north and was a policeman up there. On the second shelf, you'll see a picture of Lisa Hale in the middle, one of our first female police officers, and that's her gun belt to the left of her. She's retired to Florida and she can still wear that thing. Down below is a church made by Lester Ellhurst as he spent his time in Jackson and Lapeer after shooting Mayor Tierney in 1957. He didn't kill him. The bronze plaque is for Sam Petrick, who was the first volunteer fireman here, also a barber. And incidentally, Sam wore 2 pair of glasses when he cut your hair. But he lived at Greenfield and Warren. He hitchhiked to Garden City every day and back from 1925 up into the 70s.
Wow.
When the fire marshal inspected the building when we bought it, he decided we needed a bigger display, so he gave us a mannequin and the fire hose and the oxygen tank, which made it nice. Over here we have a couple of swords from the Civil War, Japanese swords from the Second World War, and a couple from service organizations. To the left we have uniforms, this being World War I. The banner is World War I. The balance is World War II. And that's the flag given to the Merrifield family. Don Merrifield was killed in the Battle of the Bulge in World War II. And they gave that to his parents. The memorial stone here is up in front of City Hall now. It used to be where Sue Evans' dealership was, when that was a baseball field before the dealers got in there. And when they got that, they moved that to City Hall. As I said before, the stuff up there is from Bill Brooks. The guy downstairs, he don't think he's going to get recalled. The stove is for wood, coal. There was a version for oil. That is the way we heated our houses. When I grew up, we didn't have furnaces. And in our utility rooms, we'd have a hot water heater, which was heated by coal. It took a bucket of coal a day to heat your water. So that's what they called it, a bucket of coal heater. That's Dr. Kern. He started here in about 35, and somewhere in that era. And I can't remember when he finally retired. I think he had 40 years in. I'd have to look up in the residence book. I graduated with his daughter. This is a lithograph by George Willard of the Fokker building. You notice here, this is the drugstore. That's Higgins Drugstore. This is the bank. Upstairs was dentists and doctors' offices. Down in the back was the Peck department store. And upstairs, on various years, they had 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th grade classes on half-day sessions. This is our camera. Motion picture projectors, slide projectors display. If you'll notice if it's still, it's not out. This is the bus, which Joe, and I can't think of his name, used to drive the Ford workers to Dearborn, as well as come back and get the high school kids and take them to Fortune High School in the 20s. He came out here in about 25. And he ran that up to the end of the Second War.
Okay.
Ford Middlebelt, 1965. Ford Road, Middlebelt. The City Hall at this point in time is the Fokker building, later to become Orange Jewelers, the Garden City Hotel, the Schaefer Theater, later to become the La Parisienne. You can't see it, but that's Fokker's Realty, later to be a Schatz Realty. And the Democratic Club, later to be the smallest house in Garden City. And it's been remodeled and a little bit bigger today. An old couple lived in there. This house is down the street. This is the Straight House here, as well as this house here is a Straight House, built by the Straight families in the 1800s. This house in 1866. This is the Donner House over on John Hawk, between Henry Ruff and Brant on the south side. Still there today. This is the Nollet home. About Catherine, Florence Catherine, the Middlebelt. They tore that down 10 years ago and put that shopping mall in. This used to be over at Vinoy in Warren, the southeast corner. It's a gas station today and other businesses. This house is still standing on Rand. And this is the old Schatz house up on Cherry Hill, which is still there, as well as the Schultz home over here on Hubbard and Pardo. The Schultz moved in there in 1865. Some more of our cameras displays. The Lathers, the early settlers here, about 1835, they came from Ireland with a brother-in-law, Montgomery, and settled, got successful, and went back and got the rest of the family. Now, right there is their granddaughter, Lillian Lathers McPhee. John McPhee wrote some books on Garden City as he was on the Historical Commission. This is the Reverend Swift, who came here in 1825, and this is his circuit that he rode. He settled at Merriman and Ford Road, or Merriman and Warren, built his house, and then he was a circuit rider for the Methodist Church, and he rode his horse over the trails out to Northville and Salem and Cherry Hill Village. They tell me it's about 42 miles, so he certainly didn't do it all in one day. Did you get this house? This was our house about 50 years ago. Much before the addition was put on. Sorry. This is radio was rebuilt by a Ford engineer who's retired, a friend of mine, who rebuilds radios today. It didn't have a speaker in it, and the mice had got into the antenna and chewed the wires up and left the house. Yeah. But it works fine now. And most of the tubes are original.
What room are we in right now?
You're in our movie room. The picture up here of the box, B-O-C-K, and that's where the street name came from. That's their 1890 wedding picture. They had a home, a side of the post office at John Hawk in Middlebelt, until they put the second addition on the post office and the house was torn down. Those people are going down, and Kmart's not there. Beyond Kmart, about halfway down the block, and there was a moose hall there, and I don't know why, but that's where they're going. That's 1920s. I'm sure that this is Fokker and his salesman. That's Ford and Middlebelt. This is the park today, the northwest corner. It was Smith's grocery store. And if you're going to the corner, that's where you went, Ford and Middlebelt. When I told my folks I was going to the corner, they knew where I was going. The real estate salesman. 25, they built the Fokker building. This is one of our nicer streets in the spring, more than likely. You might think that that was a Gulf gas station where the park is today, or Minder's drugstore. It's all the same. Actually, Minder's had two buildings up there. He was a side of William Five and Dime, and then in the mid-50s, when I was in the service, he built the new store at the corner.
Like I say, John Shibnan was long our postmaster here in Garden City. He's donated many of the things you're looking at. This is off the old post office on Middlebelt. The old canceling machine, Mr. Shibnan gave us. Thing still works. We let the kids run a letter through there, and then we give them a sticker. One letter at a time went through there in those days.
Come out over here?
Yep. Okay. And they'd stack up here. And if there was a postage stamp on there, we just canceled it. I don't know if you can pick that up. Yep. These are our first carriers. And what you're looking at is Mr. Donner's chair while he was postmaster here in Garden City. I'd like to point this out also. Our local post office right at the moment is named for John. It's the John Shibnan building of the Garden City Post Office. Took an act of Congress to have this done. Okay, everything you're looking at was donated through Mr. Shibnan, but the pins and badges you're looking at, a local carrier retired. And this is his uniform here. He turned out to be quite a celebrity. He was the first person married over in our parlor. The mayor of Garden City came in and married him over there as a retired gentleman. This is a very good book on the post office. You're not going to, a lot of information here. What you're looking at here is the Charles Bach Farmhouse. The federal government would buy that up and expand the post office to this size of a building. And I'd like to point a few things out to you over here. Some older letters from Garden City. Mr. Holland Hardware, he was our second mayor here in Garden City. Dr. Kern, one of the two doctors that stayed in the area, Dr. Vogel, Dr. Kern. And if you own property here in Garden City, it's going to say Folker's Acres on it someplace. We thought we had a letter from Arnold. This turns out to be his wife, Annabelle. We were close. These are some early letters. We have a lot of kids that come in and go through the museum here and the post office. And I point these two letters out to them. Can you tell me the difference here? And they look and they look, no postage stamps. So these letters had to be written before 1847 when the first postage stamps come out to the United States. And what we have here is some of the local area. Perrinsville, I don't know if you're familiar with Perrinsville. That would have been located at Ann Arbor Trail in Merriman. If you would have headed east on Ann Arbor Trail, you would have hit Wallaceville, which was a village about where Beach Daily. There's one from Stark and Elm. These are long gone villages and hamlets are no longer with us. This one is Nankin Mills. Again, no postage stamps. Very proud of our bag here. It wasn't too many years ago. Every carrier had a bag. I guess they hated these, made of real thick leather. They got wet and they leaned to one side. This is a mail bag. Years ago, all the mail went by train. Train didn't stop at a station. They had an arm that stuck out of the mail. This hung on a rack. They'd flip that bag right up into the mail car. Didn't even slow up. So we're very proud of our post office here. Like Mr. Shipman is a volunteer, worked on this room almost up until the time he passed away.
Our tour of the Garden City Historical Museum was truly fascinating, though we only scratched the surface of what there is to discover. If you would like to visit the museum and see everything they have to offer, their hours are noon to 3, Wednesdays and Saturdays. If you would like more information, visit their website at sfhonline.org. Once again, that's sfhonline.org. Or you can call them at 734-838-0650. That's 734-838-0650. Thanks to Jack Kerstetter, Bill Brooks, and Nikki Pickerel from the Friends of the Straight Farmhouse, and to Christian Gibbons and Dan York for helping to produce our visit. I'm Evan Chapman. Have a great day, everybody.